Hello there, welcome. We're going to do the top 10 reprehensible movies of the 2010s. So I've done the 80s, 90s, 2000s. I will be going back from the 70s backwards after my little break. There will be more of these, but this is the 2010s. Actually, 2010s were quite boring. uh, it was actually I think this is like essentially one of the harder ones to do because there wasn't that much. There was fake outrage, but there wasn't anything really that. There was a few, but I definitely struggled a lot more. So I'll start off with Parasite, which is the film that came out. Like I can't remember when did it come out. I'm gonna look and see when it came out. I'm pretty sure it was 2019. So Parasite came out then. It was I got confused because it was 2020s they won the Oscar because it was the following year. So Parasite isn't the list basically because it's got reprehensible lead characters and it's looking at different sorts of lives of reprehensibility of the middle class ones who are a bit more too comfortable in their lives and are a bit too much at ease and could do with being clocked a little bit. And you've got these very reprehensible characters who are the poor people who are trying to con them. As the reasons on the list is it deals with reprehensible people, even though the film itself it looks at them the lives with a lot more caring and a lot more understanding than other most films would. It is like the most famous film of this period, dealing with people who you wouldn't want to meet most of these characters. You really wouldn't. They're kind of well, the middle class ones are just annoying to start with, and the poor ones that you couldn't trust for more than a few seconds because they do seem really dodgy. So that's why they're in this list. But number 9 is The Master because it deals with Scientology and religion, a religion building that may be based on, you know, slightly more. Just like sorry, I've just had a link sent to me for tonight's podcast. I'm doing with Chris Mohan, so that's why I'm looking away. I just something that flashes up. Anyway, so the Master dealing with start of Scientology, but it's not called Scientology. It's dealing with religion that's that could be a bit dodgy, and a religious leader that could be a bit dodgy, who is a writer and who might be funneling all of these situations, always has problems into this religion to make money. But it's about the actual like weaknesses and flaws within characters you might find appalling in real life. Like Joaquin Phoenix plays this guy who's all about impulse, he's almost animalistic. And he's in the Master, Philip Seymour Hoffman's trying to control him. And it's about these two characters almost fighting each other for control of the soul of Joaquin Phoenix's character. But they're reprehensible characters in lots of ways, and ways that make people uncomfortable, which makes them very human. But it's about a religion and false idols and false beliefs and false sense of giving people false hope to not look into what their lives really are. So that way, it's a film about reprehensible actions and the dark side of religion. But as the film itself is wonderful. So that's why it's on the list. It's one of the good ones. Number 8 is The Act of Killing, which is another one on the list, but it's a great film. There's lots of great films here that might offend some people. The Act of Killing is looking at a regime in Asia that was a fascist regime, that was like dictatorial regime where members of that regime went around killing people in the past, and it's now watch them reenact the murders and showing what they did in the murders since a lot of time has passed. And it's like, do they have any guilt or not? And it's about they look at reprehensible acts and how it affects people and how it affects the people doing it to people. So it's actually a bit. It's actually a look at a study about reprehensible actions rather than being an example of one. But I'm trying to obviously this list is actually about the subject, just about not just is it reprehensible. Number 7 is Why Don't We Play in Hell, which is another great film. Sion Sono one. It's about gangsters and filmmaking and the kind of wonderful and reprehensible actions of filmmaking, like how it can be a wonder, but also in this film, how it is used to film this massive massacre at the end where tons of people die for their art to make this perfect film. And it's about the kind of reprehensible actions of gangsters, but also reprehensible actions of art, and how it's all crazy and how people involved are insane. If you've seen Heart of Darkness or many a film gone wrong, you know exactly what this film is about. And it's wonderful. It's about the joy of filmmaking, but also the blind spots. So that's number 7. Number 6, Star Trek Into Darkness, because it's shit. Basically, it's terrible. It takes Rafrakan and replays Rafrakan in the most moronic ways possible. It's also stupid in almost every scene. It is the dumbest blockbuster. The thing is, I was trying to decide this or Rise of Skywalker. Both with the same director. One at the start of the decade, one at the end of the decade. Both of them are awful, awful films that make you wonder why filmmaking exists. So that's why they're reprehensible, because they're filmmaking at its worst. Right, number 5 is The Interview, which caused so many problems because it was a joke about an interview with the leader of Korea, where there's an assassination attempt, and it caused a hack on Sony, and the film was eventually just delayed and then put out on video and like streaming. All for a film that's a Seth Rogen, James Franco movie that's actually quite funny and silly, but it's never going to be one of the great films. But it is a film that caused reprehensible actions, but also funny ones for Sony because a lot of the dark secrets came out. So it led to reprehensible actions. And it was a funnily dodgy idea. Like, we're going to interview this fascist dictator and we're going to try and help people try and kill him. So it covered reprehensibility in lots of different ways. Okay, number 4 is Zero Dark 30. Or did I say dank there? Zero Dark 30. Which is a film about trying to find Bin Laden and the search for him throughout the time, throughout the 2010s until he was finally caught and killed. And this film looks into that, but also looks into the torture culture and the CIA was having early on and how a lot of people were tortured, and they didn't actually bring information to them. So it's the reprehensible acts that your country does for you in your name to get actions, to get revenge on people. And this film got a lot of criticism for not being to not thump at the door and say this is horrible, you shouldn't do this. It's much more like this is what they do, which I thought made the film interesting. Made the film interesting having like a protagonist and Jeffrey Chastain's character who isn't that likable. You can agree with her ideal aim is to get Bin Laden for 9/11, but also it looks into the kind of dodgy ways that America did it, and all the different dodgy ways you have to do in spyware and spy business when you're going into any country, and how morally reprehensible spy world is. So it's quite an interesting film about things we don't want to think about. But number 3 is Joker, which if you look online, people say it's either a masterpiece or it's the most reprehensible film ever because reasons. I've never understood why the people object to this film too much. It's about an obviously mentally imbalanced person, Joaquin Phoenix again, another film from him, and it's a well-made film. I don't think it's amazing, but it is looking at a lot of the problems society was having around about the Trump era, the early Trump era, where a lot of people were feeling disengaged from society, feeling angry, feeling ready to blast out in violence. and you did see some violence in the streets. And this film just expresses that. It's just an expression of what was going on in people's heads at the time. That's why it made so much money, because people were feeling like that. But of course, it's called Reprehensible because it gave an expression to that feeling. So they're making a sequel now, which I don't think will do as well because I don't think the culture's there anymore. But people will be interested to see what they do with it. But I don't think the culture is where this film was at. But it's definitely interesting. Number 2 is The Hunt, which was delayed till 2020, but it's meant to come out in 2019. So the Reprehensible Act is actually delaying a film because people were a bit sensitive because it was about liberals cutting down Trump supporters and murdering them in a foreign land. Like, they take these people from America who they see as disposable, evil right wingers, and they plot them down in a foreign country, and then these sort of rich liberals start hunting them down like they're in Hard to Target or Most Dangerous Game. So it's a joke about the extremism of society and where we've gone in the Trump era and the Brexit era and things like that. And it was so reprehensible to, originally it was reprehensible to the Republicans because, oh my God, they're hunting us down. And then when people realised it was a satire on both Republicans and Democrats, it was still, that's a horrible idea, how can you show it, and blah, blah, blah. So it was reprehensible because of, it was a hysterical idea that offended lots of people and caused a reprehensible act for a delay. So I don't even have to stay in this, decade to have a reprehensible act in this decade. That's pretty good. Finally, A Serbian Film is number 1. Of course, it had to be a Serbian film. It's an awful film. It's horrible. It's all about, I've done a video on it. See the video. It's about this guy who's needs money, and he signs up for something. He doesn't know where it's going to go, so he has to do things on camera, and what eventually has to do is horrific and indefensible, and it's just filmmakers trying to freak people out by suggesting things that you don't want to ever really have suggested to you. It's reprehensible because it's not a bit of filmmaking with actually any point to it. It's just there to offend you. And it's badly done, and the dialogue's terrible. Everything's terrible. It's an awful, awful, awful film. I've seen it once. I've never watched it again. But it just reminds me of how reprehensible filmmaking can be if you have idiots doing it. So that's why it's number 1. I don't really have anything else to say about it beyond screw that movie. It's awful. So I hope you enjoyed this list. I'll be back with another list. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back in a few weeks with some more videos, but this is me for now. Right. Bye.